So before I start, or as I start, I want to call attention and embarrass her a little bit. Where are you, Sabine? Where'd she go? She's playing with the innocent. There's a beautiful young girl here today named Sabine Milliken, and I paid her $100 to be here so that she would lower the average age. Actually, she was baptized. She's a student here at the school. She was baptized a number of months ago, and unfortunately, they live so far away that she can't be here every week, but she loves doing this and loves being a part of it. And having spent my career working with younger people and children, it just made my heart glad when I came in this morning and saw Sabine. She's just a great kid. And it's absolutely apt, given what Jesus talks about with his disciples this morning. You know, a number of years ago, around 2015, the columnist and writer David Brooks published a book entitled The Road to Character. And he said about writing the book that he did it to save his own soul, because of his own struggles with his own selfhood and ego and the world in which we live. And he was looking for deeper meaning and deeper truth. And he cites, it was first a TED talk that he gave that he kind of elaborated into a book, and he cites certain characters in history and they're searching for meaning and truth and character. But he talks about a Jewish rabbi from the 1860s named Joseph Soloveitchik, who wrote a book called The Lonely Man of Faith. And he takes the two ways in which the story of Adam in the creation stories in Genesis, if you unweave them, there are actually two stories there. It sounds like, you just read about Adam and Eve, but if you go back and look, there's actually kind of two stories. And in one of them, Adam is very much a person who is aspiring to get someplace in life. He's ambitious. He's like all human beings in our development. But in the other, he's a surrendering, compassionate figure who's trying to be in sync with God and God's will. And so Soloveitchik talks about Adam 1 and Adam 2. And what Brooks does with that is he talks about resume living and eulogy living. I could stop here because you already get it, right? And this is a persistent theme of mine, partly because I'm still struggling with it and partly because of being in the field of education. We know that as young people, we wouldn't get as far as we're going to get in life if we didn't have an Adam 1 in us, if we weren't trying to get out there and do well and make it and build a resume. And resumes are sometimes pretty impressive, right? Boy, that's a pretty important guy. But what kind of a guy is he? Is really the question. Because what we're being asked to think about by Brooks, but more importantly by Jesus, is what really matters. What really matters? So ask yourselves this morning, what really matters? What really matters to you? Why really are we here? What's the point? And it's not an either or, it really is a both and, because we have to struggle. We're human. And yet, life keeps giving us these unsought, unwelcome often, opportunities to embrace the deeper second Adam in ourselves. I think about people I've known who have been so important to me people I've worked for, mentors I've had. And I was fortunate in each instance that I was working with people who had pretty impressive resumes. They were very accomplished. But in large part, the reason they were so accomplished was because of what really drove them underneath. And there was a grace there, a love for others, a sense of deeper character and meaning in life. So what really matters? Many of us in the room, I dare say, are deeper in the trough of life than others. And isn't it true that as we get older, it kind of begins to dawn on us that what really matters is the love in our lives, the relationships we have and share, the people we've helped and served and by whom we've been served? Isn't that what really matters? Yeah, it matters how good we are at what we do. I mean, we've been given gifts. Lord knows we ought to develop them and use them. But again, to what end? A friend of mine named Peter Becker is the head of a boarding school in Connecticut. And he's married to just a beautiful human being, Amy Julia Becker, who is a spiritual writer, a retreat leader, just a fantastic, fantastic woman. And recently, their youngest of three children, Penny, celebrated her 18th birthday. Now, Peter and Amy met in high school together, went their separate ways, but stayed in relationship while they went to different colleges, and then came back together and were soon married and have been married ever since. And they had Penny, the first of those three children, when they were still very young, still really forming in so many ways. And recently, Amy wrote a reflection as their daughter Penny was turning 18. I'm going to share it with you, so bear with me because I'm going to read to you, but I'm good at it. On the night Penny was born, a few minutes after two doctors had said to my husband, "We suspect your daughter has Down syndrome," another little girl was born in the room next to ours. Through the walls, we heard someone in that room proclaim, "She's perfect, she's perfect." A few hours later, a nurse came in. She checked my vital signs and dimmed the lights. I closed my eyes, but as she was leaving the room, she stopped and turned back towards me and said, "I had a special child too." I looked up. I didn't know what it meant to have a special child or how to ask questions or how to receive whatever she wanted me to hear. "How old is your child now?" I asked. "He died a long time ago," she said, and all of a sudden my chest felt tight. "I'm so sorry." She shook her head. I didn't understand. She was not looking for consolation. She said, "He was a gift." She walked out of the room and I never saw her again. And Amy reflects, that nurse invited me to travel an unknown road from the words "she's perfect" to "he was a gift." She invited us to move from a culture that assesses us according to what we can do to a way of being that welcomes each of us as we are. The nurse hinted at a whole new way of seeing our humanity, not just Penny, but myself and those around me. She invited me to believe that who we are as humans is not a measurement against a norm, but rather a wondrous exploration of abundant diversity. She invited me to love our daughter for who she is rather than who I think she ought to be. She invited us away from individual achievement, social hierarchies, and competition to greater freedom, connection, and a world of possibilities. Over the years, the more I get to know our daughter, the less I need for her to prove herself through some activity or achievement. The more enamored I became with who she already was. the more I saw my role as a parent not as training her to become who I wanted her to be, not as forcing her into the mold of an average American, but rather as helping her grow into her full self. Of course, she's helped me a lot to grow into my full self. On Monday this week, my little Penny walked out the door as an 18-year-old young woman starting a program at Post University. And the words from that nurse still ring true. She is a gift. What really matters?